Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Law of Self-Defense. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branca for the Law of Self-Defense. And today we are here to talk about when can a cop lawfully enter your home and how can you lawfully stop them? So a video is making the rounds of the internets in which a police officer, a sheriff's deputy actually, responding to a noise complaint, is standing just inside the doorway of a home while the female homeowner shouts at him to get out of her house. The officer refuses, the deputy refuses, makes a bunch of zany claims like, "I own your house now," and ultimately places the woman under arrest, handcuffs her, and takes her away. Could this possibly be lawful conduct on the part of this deputy? There are, in fact, a number of conditions in which a police officer or deputy can lawfully enter your home with or without your permission. But does this video demonstrate any of those? In today's show, we'll share that video with you as well as my own thoughts on it, and we'll discuss the major categories of circumstances in which the police can lawfully enter your home, and we'll see if any of those would apply to this video. And then we'll discuss what your legal and practical options are to lawfully prevent police from entering your home unlawfully. Before we jump in, I just want to remind all of you that if you stay to the end, we have a very special treat for you, and that is how to get a free copy of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles. This is your handbook to being hard to convict. If you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, your property, we want to give you that book for free. Stay to the end of today's show, and we'll explain to you exactly how to do that. So, under what circumstances can police lawfully enter your home, and what can you do to stop them if they're entering your home unlawfully? Those are the two questions we're talking about today, anchored by some apparently outrageous video out of Riverside County, California, in which a sheriff's office deputy is standing just inside the doorway of a female homeowner who is having none of it. Now, this video and the representations of the homeowner are currently the only evidence that we have to go on with respect to this event. And as I often caution, when you're only hearing one side of the argument, it's not hard to get caught up in a one-sided view of what's happening. So we do want to be cautious about that. That disclaimer right up front. The sheriff's office has itself released a brief statement about this case, and I'll share that with all of you in a moment. But the statement really essentially just promises more contextualization at a later date, so it's not very informative at the moment, although there is a hint of something worth considering in it. So we will address that in today's show as well. And again, I mention all this because of the hazards of hearing only one side of the story. And so far, with this video, we're really only hearing one side of the story. That said, if the one side of the story isn't necessarily a solid foundation to arrive at definite conclusions on this event, it does look pretty bad for the sheriff's deputy. And more importantly, for our educational mission at Law of Self-Defense, it provides a platform for us to discuss the more general topics of when can the police lawfully enter your home and what can you do to stop them if they are entering unlawfully. Now, this content is brought to us by our sponsor, CCW Safe, a provider of legal service memberships. What many people mistakenly call self-defense insurance, in effect, CCW Safe promises to pay its members legal expenses if the member is involved in a use of force event. And they do much, much more than that as well. There are a number of companies out there that offer a similar kind of service. Some of them are worth considering. Different flavors are best for different people. Some of them are hot garbage I could not recommend under any circumstances. Don't make a mistake. Consider CCW Safe. I personally have chosen CCW Safe. I'm a member. My wife, Emily, is a member. They are the best fit for me, and I trust them to do the right thing. If you'd like to learn why I trust them, you can point your browser to lawofselfdefense.com/trust. And there's a little video there where I explain in just a few minutes precisely why CCW Safe is the best fit for me, and perhaps they are the best fit for you. Also, at lawofselfdefense.com/trust, there's a 10% discount code you can use when you become a member of CCW Safe as well. Again, that's at lawofselfdefense.com/trust. All right. So we are dealing here with the home of one Adele Shirey. I don't know about the pronunciation. It's Shirey. Adele Shirey in Riverside County, California. And our video begins with Ring doorbell footage of Riverside County Sheriff's Deputy Huzar. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's Huizar. Huzar walking about outside the front door of Sherry's home. And these events are taking place at about, at dark 30, roughly 2:30 a.m. Now, Shirey has stated to the news media that one of her minor children had opened the front door of the home, seen Deputy Huzar standing perhaps 20 feet back from the door outside the house, and that minor child immediately shut the door. Shirey also claims that Deputy Huzar then simply walked up to the closed front door, opened it on his own initiative, and stepped over the threshold into her home. Again, this is only one side of the story, but it is a version of events consistent with what we see in this Ring camera video. So let me pull that up and play that for all of you right now. Not much going on, right? All right, so that loud volume noise there sounds like somebody, in fact, opened up the front door, saw the deputy standing out there, and shut the front door. And then the deputy just walks up to the front door, opens it, and lets himself in. That's what that looks like to me. By the way, I should mention that both this clip and the next one is from the interior of the home taken on someone's smartphone. I got from a YouTube channel called Lackluster, which seems to have a lot of this kind of content. I don't believe I've ever heard of Lackluster before, but they do have 1.27 million subscribers on YouTube, which is no joke. So if you like this kind of video content, you might want to check them out. Obviously, lots of people do and like it. That's at Lackluster on YouTube, Lackluster Media. So a shout out to the source of my video here. All right, so the next much longer. That was about 30 seconds. The next one's about a minute. 3 minutes long. Is of the type captured by smartphone cameras, presumably held in the hand of someone inside the house, and it's directed at the interior of the front door. And in this video clip, Deputy Huzar and the homeowner, Adele Shirey, are essentially face to face, with the deputy clearly inside their doorway of the home. And Shirey is shouting at the deputy that he has no right to be in her home, and he is insisting that he does have such a right. Now, the verbal exchange between these two is heated. They're yelling, and there's little emotional control being exhibited by either the deputy or the homeowner. Now, frankly, given the time of morning, the fact that the deputy's probably on a shift and not just, awake at 2:30 a.m. after doing stuff all day, based on the location, it is Shirey's home, not the deputy's, and presumably their disparate training and experience in dealing with confrontation, I would have expected Deputy Huzar to be taking the lead and exercising a calming emotional control here. But he comes across both in presentation and in his actual statements as rather zany and bizarre, I have to say. So I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. I do expect to pause it a few times to point a few things out whenever I have a particular thought to share. So let me pull this up and go ahead and start this.
Yeah.
Okay, then back the
I'm
up
not
out of
going
my
to
house.
back up.
You do not have a right to be inside my
I'm
house.
not
I will
gonna back
talk
up.
to you outside.
Just back up and talk to her outside.
No.
You don't have a warrant. No, don't talk to them.
You don't have
do
to
not
walk.
have
Let
a
me tell
warrant
you-
to be inside.
So there's no warrant, right? Or he'd be displaying a warrant. We'll talk about warrants in more detail in a moment.
I will talk to you outside.
You want?
Officer, I will talk
I
to
am
you
not
outside.
going to step outside your house.
You do not have a
We're
warrant
gonna
to be
talk
inside
right
of my house.
I'm not inside your house.
I mean, this is what I mean by zany and bizarre. He's clearly inside the house. He's standing inside the house.
Okay?
You're inside of my house.
Let me tell you why I'm right here.
Because you walked in.
No, because they opened the door and ran from me.
And
That's
I'm
why.
telling you,
Okay, so a little ambiguous here. We're going to talk about hot pursuit in a moment. Hot pursuit would be if someone was outside the house being pursued by police in the immediate aftermath of some criminal activity, and they fled into a house. And the police in hot pursuit follow them into the house. But that's not what happened here. What happened here is someone opened a door, looked out, saw him, and shut the door. They're not in flight. So we'll talk more about hot pursuit in just a second.
I am the
Okay,
adult
and I'm
here.
telling
This
you
is my home.
that now that I'm inside your house, I own your house
No,
right
you
now.
do not.
It's almost like this must be like an SNL skit or something. Obviously, he doesn't own the house. If he wants to be in the house with authority and not unlawfully, he has to have some legal reason. He doesn't just say, I own your house. Look at me. This is my house now.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Bro,
What I
I
mean,
know my right.
Now, I understand why the homeowner is presenting in the near hysterical way she is. She's genuinely and legitimately and quite correctly outraged at this conduct. I would suggest it would probably be more beneficial if a person, a homeowner in this position, were able to be calmer than she is. And having said that, in all fairness, I would really put the heavy burden on the deputy to be calming things the F down. Perhaps actually explaining a rational authorization for being there. But I think it would be in both parties' interests if they were less emotionally energized in this confrontation. The more emotion that's injected, it rarely leads to a better outcome for anybody involved.
I don't care if you know your rights.
And I'm telling you, my
So-
dog will bite you if I tell her to bite you.
Tell
So
your
I'm
dog-
Okay, so if you like your dog, that's a bad idea, folks. I mean, she just explicitly told this police officer, I'm prepared to use my dog as a weapon against you. Well, then the officer's likely to treat the dog as a weapon. And that's unlikely to be good for the dog. Now, legal merit aside, the deputy could be completely in the wrong. If he ends up shooting the dog's dead. So I would be very cautious about telling police that you're prepared to use your dog as a weapon against them if you care about your dog.
asking you to back
Tell your
up,
dog to bite
and
you.
I will talk to you outside.
I'm not going to talk to you
What
outside.
the f do you want?
I think he said, tell your dog to bite me. Did he say that? I want to rewind it just a little bit.
I will talk to you outside.
I'm not going to talk to you
What
outside.
the f do you want? What the f do you want inside my house?
That's a good question. He should have a good answer. He doesn't appear to.
Bring your f***ing supervisor to my home now. Yeah, bring them all.
We'll turn
You
the
have
music
no
down. Can you
right
leave
to
us
be
alone?
inside. No, don't
Please.
talk to them.
Please. We'll
You
turn
have
the
no
music
right
down.
to be inside because they opened the door. They're minors. I'm the adult here. This is
By the way, I think these are the minor children in the home. I don't think they're little kids. I think they're like, teenage age kids.
my home.
She said she's the adult.
She's not the adult. She's my daughter. Get the f out of my
I'm
home.
not going to get out of your house.
Then call your f***ing supervisor right f***ing now.
415 noise.
And put me to the f***ing ground. I f***ing double dog
Go
dare
ahead and
you.
touch me.
This is my home.
And now they're daring each other. Put me on the ground. I double dog dare you. This is not a formula for positive outcomes, folks.
Bro, you're in my house.
I am telling
You're
you.
in my house.
All right. So then, then he grabs her. This is where the tension arrest, the handcuffing comes into play. I'm going to talk a little bit later about what you can do from a practical and legal perspective if police are unlawfully entering your home. One of the options is to go physical. And we'll talk about the benefits and drawbacks of that option a bit later. But don't just present as if you're going physical. that's a bad plan for sure. And what she does here, when she raises her hand to his face height right here, that could easily be taken as an attempt to strike him in the face. And of course, he's going to defend himself against that strike. Now, I'm not saying his defense would even be lawful if he's unlawfully present in the home. I'm speaking of self-defense not as a legal justification here, but as a physical act, because it's when that hand comes up at his face level that he grabs her, detains her, puts her in handcuffs, and eventually drags her away. Now things have, whether perceived reasonably or not, have escalated beyond words to a physical confrontation. And this woman's not going to win a physical confrontation in the doorway of her home. Not in these circumstances. And of course, she doesn't.
You're in my house. Don't do that. You're in my house. I didn't touch you. Did I touch you?
Stop. No,
Did
stop. You can't do anything.
I touch
You're
you?
just going to make it worse.
Did I ever touch you? I did not.
By the way, the teenage boys are the calmest ones here. In my experience, it's often the teenage boys that most aggressively get emotionally energized. But they are the calming voices here, not the adults. Kudos to the kids.
You, bro.
Step away.
I didn't fucking touch you.
No, you're good. You're
I
good.
didn't
Mama D,
fucking
stop.
touch you.
Mama D, stop. Mama
I
D,
didn't fucking touch you. You're intimidated,
Mama,
bro. You're in my house.
I am telling
You're
you.
in my house.
Don't do that.
You're
Hey,
in my house. Stop. She's hurt. Did I touch you? What's wrong with you? Did I touch you?
Obviously, this is now a slightly different angle on the takedown.
Did I
you can't do anything.
touch you?
Oh my
Step
God.
away.
No, I know. We just want
You're
to
in my
relax it. We
fucking
just want her to calm
home,
down.
bro.
We just want her to calm
You're
down.
in
Mama
my
D,
home.
Please, please, Mama D.
Oh, this.
No, Mama D, stop. Mama D, stop, please.
She would ultimately get charged with resisting, is one of the criminal charges currently against her. She's about to be arraigned in the next few days.
Please.
You're
Please.
in my fucking home. Mom, stop.
Stop. Just
Stop
stop.
acting
Just
like
stop.
that.
Just stop.
Stop.
Just stop. Just stop. You're good.
I wonder if mom often has emotional control problems, if it's not just isolated to this particular event, because these kids it doesn't seem like it's their first time observing their mother demonstrating this demeanor.
Off of me. I'm not hurting
No, she's
you.
good. She's good.
Am
You're
I
good, Mama
hurting
D.
you?
You're good,
Did
Mama
I
D.
hurt you? Did I hurt you? Did I hurt you?
I told you, right?
Did I hurt
I
you?
told you to step
You're
away.
in my. Did I touch you?
I've been recording this.
Ever once did I touch you? Keep this on video.
I am.
Did I touch you
Oh,
one
good. Just-
time? I have it on the ring. I don't give a bro. Did I touch you
Look.
one time? You're intimidated by me?
This is unnecessary. This
Stop.
was
Get
Get
totally
the fuck out of here.
unnecessary.
Call your supervisor right fucking now.
Mama D,
Put me
please,
up against the wall.
please,
No, they don't have to.
Please, Mama D.
No,
please.
don't go inside. Don't go
Please.
inside.
We don't have to go inside.
Don't
Just
go
like, I
inside.
just want to de-escalate.
Don't go inside.
It's done.
Keep it on. Do not go inside. Don't listen to him. Oh, look at all these cops coming for a little fight.
All right, so that's the longer the video. What a circus. Human beings are so funny. All right. So with all that, at least that one-sided context, let's shift from this actual event to a more generalized consideration of when can the police lawfully enter your home, and what can you do to prevent them from unlawfully entering your home? Now, I'm going to cover, I think, 5 major categories of circumstances in which the police can lawfully enter your home. One of them has kind of 3 subcategories, but I've written it down. So hopefully that'll help us keep track a little bit of these categories. So first and most obvious, the police, of course, can enter your home with your consent. I mean, that seems obvious enough, right? Now, importantly, this consent needs to be voluntary, not coerced. But I also caution that the consent can be implicit rather than explicit. So, for example, if you're chatting with an officer outside your front door and the conversation and the circumstances leads him to believe that you'd like him to accompany you into your home, that happens. Well, he may reasonably believe he has implicit consent to enter. Of course, consent to enter can be revoked at any time, just like with any other guest in your home. And particularly in the case of claimed implicit consent to enter, if you immediately tell the officer, hey, what are you doing? You're not allowed in my house. That obviously would clarify any ambiguity there that no consent is being offered. Now, consent obviously is when you're allowing them in. All the other forms of potential claimed authority to enter your home by the police, they all involve situations in which you do not consent to the entry. So the second basis is if the police have a warrant. If the police have a warrant, they can enter your home without your consent. And this could be either a warrant to search, so a search warrant, or a warrant to arrest, an arrest warrant, when they have reason to believe that the person named in the arrest warrant is in your home. Then they can come in to arrest that person. Now, in theory, of course, a warrant requires a demonstration to a magistrate, a kind of judge, that there exists probable cause to believe that either the specific evidence of a crime or the person being sought for arrest, that they've been involved in some criminal activity. So in theory, you have to show some evidence to the magistrate. The magistrate makes a determination of probable cause. And if there is probable cause in the view of the magistrate, they sign the warrant. And if there is not probable cause, they refuse to sign the warrant. In practice, warrants are pretty much given out like free candy. And without much fact checking or due diligence on the part of the magistrate, basically they take the word of the officer seeking the warrant. They trust them for it. The officers can, in theory, be held accountable after the fact if they lied on the warrant. But the magistrate is really just signing these things and relying on the representations of the officer seeking the warrant. Now, a third way that a police can enter your home lawfully, albeit without your consent, is under the plain view doctrine, where they can plainly see from outside your home that there's some criminal activity or criminal contraband in plain view. Now, usually the crime or contraband in question would need to rise to the level of a felony. So, for example, if a police officer is walking down the sidewalk in front of your house and they can simply peer into your garage is open, and they look in and they see a meth lab or a known stolen car or unlawful marijuana plants or whatever the criminal activity or contraband might be, if they can see it in plain view, they could claim legal authority to enter your home, even without your consent, enter your home lawfully on that basis. Now, the fourth category is kind of the bucket category. Exigent circumstances. The police can lawfully enter your home without your consent under certain exigent circumstances. And it's a pretty broad category because it's intended to be kind of a broad catch-all for real-world circumstances that common sense would tell us should allow an officer to enter the home. One of these is an emergency situation. So, for example, a police officer is walking on the sidewalk past your house and they look over and they see fire coming out of a second-story window. That officer may claim this emergency situation as legal authority to lawfully enter your home for the purpose of rescuing people inside, even absent your consent. Another exigent circumstance is evidence destruction, or to avoid evidence destruction. This is really kind of an ongoing legacy of the war on drugs. Many types of illegal drugs are easily disposed of by simply flushing them down the toilet. Courts have sometimes recognized this evidence destruction, exigent circumstance as authority for the police to lawfully enter your home without your consent if they can credibly claim that's a risk. And the final exigent circumstance we'll talk about today is hot pursuit. I mentioned this earlier. When the officer is in hot pursuit of a fleeing criminal and he runs into a home, the officer can pursue him into the home. Now, usually the crime in question has to be a felony. So we're talking about the hot pursuit of a fleeing felon. And hot pursuit means the pursuit is in the immediate aftermath of the crime in question. There's no cessation in the pursuit. So if someone robs a liquor store, is chased by the police as they flee the liquor store, and they run into your home, the police could claim that hot pursuit exigent circumstance as authority for lawfully entering your home, even without your consent. And the final major category, whoops, it's right here. I already have it. For entering your home lawfully, even without your consent, falls under the label of community caretaking, often referred to as a welfare check. So the children of a local elderly resident call the police. Hey, we live far away, but our elderly relative, our dad in his final years, he's not answered the phone in the last few days, and we're afraid maybe he's fallen and broken his hip, or otherwise he's in some serious distress. And they ask police to go to the house and make sure everything's okay. And with that information in hand, the police, they might knock on the door. And even if there's no response at all, they may, with that information, force the door to gain entry and ensure the safety and welfare of the occupants inside. And in such a case, the police would be claiming this community caretaking function or welfare check function as the basis for their authority to lawfully enter the home without the homeowner's consent. Now, with these things in mind, let's circle back to the video we just watched. Deputy Hussar and Adele Shirey arguing in the doorway. Do any of these arguments for authorizing the police to lawfully enter a private home appear to apply to Deputy Hussar's entry into Sherry Adele's home? Well, let's consider consent first. Clearly, Adele is not consenting to Hussar entering her home. So that basis for lawful entry is off the table. All the others are authorities for lawful entry without consent, right? So what about a warrant? Well, no, Deputy Hussar, he neither mentions a warrant nor shows a warrant, either for search or arrest. So I don't believe the warrant authority is on the table. What about a claim of criminal activity or contraband in plain view? Well, the deputy was responding to a noise complaint, but a noise complaint is generally just an ordinance violation, perhaps subject to a fine. It's not really a criminal offense. And as such, it wouldn't rise to the level necessary to justify a criminal activity or contraband authority to lawfully enter the home without the homeowner's consent. What about the various exigent circumstances? Well, there's no evidence that anyone required immediate emergency aid, right? The house wasn't on fire. No one was drowning in a pool. So that wouldn't seem to apply. The emergency aid contingency. Evidence destruction, there's no evidence of anything like that going on. So that wouldn't apply. Hot pursuit. Deputy Hussar he's a little ambiguous. He does kind of suggest that, someone ran inside, but they didn't run inside from outside the house. We saw that on the Ring camera. There was nobody outside of the house. It would appear the homeowner's description that her minor child opened the door, saw a cop, a deputy, and just closed the door. That's not a hot pursuit of anybody. So I don't see a hot pursuit justification here either. And what about a community caretaking function? Well, this one's kind of interesting because there is a little hint of something along those lines in the sheriff's office press statement. So let's take a look at that now. So the sheriff's office released this statement. I'm just going to read it. We are aware of the video circulating on social media and are currently looking into the incident. As part of this investigation, we have obtained all of the body-worn camera footage that shows a complete and unedited version of the event with a different perspective based on the totality of the circumstances of the call for service. Fair enough. The hypothetical other side of the story, which they don't really share here. They say they're getting to it. Continuing, this incident occurred over a month before being posted to social media and only days before the arraignment of the individual arrested. That would be Adele Sherry, the homeowner, for delaying, obstructing an investigation, and contributing to the delinquency of minors. I'm going to come back to that. The deputy was answering a call from a neighbor of a loud party noise complaint. The Riverside County Sheriff's Office did not receive any complaints of misconduct or wrongdoing concerning this incident before it was posted to social media. Adele's lawyer may have been holding it back until just before arraignment for just this, ambush purpose. A thorough investigation will be completed to include an administrative investigation to determine if discipline is warranted. Respectfully, the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. Now, this issue of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. That's a slight hint of something that could fall within a community caretaking function. So I'm wondering if the sheriff's office intends to argue that they had reliable information indicating there was some kind of contributing delinquency of a minor occurring here. I don't see any dad present. So there's a mom and there's teenage kids. Mom's a little off the hook, I would suggest, maybe. And there were, of course, these minor children, these teenage children in the home captured on camera. It's about 2:30 a.m. or so. I suppose there's at least a hypothetical argument that the sheriff's office might try to make here, maybe based on information they received from third parties, that there was some kind of contributing to the delinquency of a minor welfare check kind of thing taking place. And I base that solely on that one passing remark here in the sheriff's office statement about contributing to the delinquency of a minor. There's no substantive evidence on this point. But even if that were true, it would have been my expectation that Deputy Huzar would have articulated this as his basis for standing inside the home. I'm here. We have reason to believe there's delinquency occurring. I'm here to check it out. And that's my authority for stepping inside your home. But he never says anything like that. And frankly, should the sheriff's office attempt to claim a delinquency of minors basis so far after the fact, the actual event again occurred about a month ago, I'd be hard pressed to not consider such a claim to be much more than a fabricated pretext and lacking in credibility. Now, in their press statement, they may have said, hey, we didn't know there was any argument about the legitimacy of any of this. No, there were no complaints filed with us until now. So maybe they have evidence of good reason to be there, delinquency reasons to be there, perhaps. I'd like to see it if they do. In any case, based on the one-sided evidence that we have, I'd have to conclude that Riverside County Sheriff's Deputy Huzar does not appear to have had legal authority to enter the home. And if he didn't have legal authority to enter the home, he's looking at a bevy of prospective criminal charges, including potentially breaking and entering, home invasion, felony burglary, aggravated assault and battery, unlawful arrest, unlawful imprisonment, abduction, and more. Even worse, because these crimes, if they were crimes, would have been committed under color of law, they might provide a basis to go right to federal court in a Section 1983 federal civil lawsuit against the deputy and against his department. And that's where the big bucks are made in these civil cases, folks, is in federal Section 1983 civil actions. Of course, again, we've heard one side, right? So actual evidence, new evidence could change this view completely. Small changes in facts can result in big changes in outcome in these use of force cases. So we'll have to see what the sheriff's office comes up with and consider that as well. Here at Law Self-Defense, we look at these issues and arguments from both sides of the table because that's what legal analysis is. The second major question I had promised to address in today's show is not just under what circumstances can the police lawfully enter your home, but what can you do about it? What can you do to stop the police who are unlawfully entering your home? Well, as a practical matter, you really have three options. First, you can just consent. I mean, I presume for discussion purposes that that's not really on the table, that we're not talking about consent, but I mention it only for purposes of completeness. Second, you could remonstrate against the unlawful, what you believe to be an unlawful entry. That is, you could verbally object, perhaps position yourself, as Adele Shirey did here, to compel the officer to physically move you aside in order to gain entry. This second option is relatively safe. You're unlikely to get hurt much. But of course, it may well be ineffective at preventing entry. They may just move you aside and enter. The third option is that you could resist the officer's attempt to enter your home unlawfully, in your view, by resorting to physical violence. This may even ultimately prove to be a lawful use of defensive force by you. The problem with this third approach is, of course, the very real physical risk. Are you really prepared to get into a gunfight to keep officers out of your home? What if they genuinely believe, even if they're mistaken, but they genuinely believe that they do have the authority, based on any of the reasons we discussed, to enter your home? If they do, they're coming in. Are you prepared to shoot them to keep them from coming in? Now, I don't tell people what to do. If you want to set up crew-served weapons and fight off the police in a genuine belief it's the right thing to do, I'm not going to stop you. How could I stop you? You have a crew-served weapon. I wouldn't expect that to end well for anybody, but I'm certainly not going to stop you. That said, I might suggest that a more prudent approach is to fight the unlawful entry, not at the threshold of your home, but in a courtroom afterwards. Make your verbal objections, perhaps compel the police to move you aside in order to enter, record everything like Adele Shirey did here, and then hand all that over to your lawyer and let your lawyer do the fighting in the bloodless forum of a courtroom, which I expect is what Adele Shirey is planning to do in short order here. All right, folks. So that's all I have to share with you as substance today. I do want to remind all of you, we promised you how to get a free copy of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense, your handbook to being hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, your property. Check it out on Amazon, 5-star rated bestseller in its category, but don't buy it on Amazon. They'll charge you for the book $20 or $25 plus shipping and handling. We only ask that you cover the cost of shipping the book to you, and you can get that free copy of The Law of Self-Defense Principles at lawofselfdefense.com/free book. lawofselfdefense.com/free book. And with that said, I'll just remind all of you that if you carry a gun, so you're hard to kill, if you carry a knife, if you carry pepper spray, if you study jujitsu, I do all those things so that I'm hard to kill, so that my family is hard to kill. Well, if you do any of that, then you also owe it to yourself and your family to make sure you know the law, so you're hard to convict as well. Until next time, I remain Attorney Andrew Branca for the Law of Self-Defense. Stay safe.